don't have any gimmicky things for me to do today, do
Nope,
you, Jimmy?
I do not. I have none for you today. We're going to ask.
Because it's really early.
We're going to talk about taxes and things like that.
Okay,
you
great.
know, deep stuff.
Tax-free munis. Boom.
Yeah, stuff like that. I saw you on KNBC the other night. That was weird.
Yeah, okay. You know that. You know why I did that?
Your father-in-law?
That's my father-in-law. That was a bet.
Ruckheiser interview number.
It was very strange. Just having him giving advice about people breaking up on dates and stuff.
I had a real good time.
I said, what is this stuff? Were you actually a child actor? But you were a really late teenager, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I started acting when my career began when this guy's ended, which I think is kind of interesting, and I thought about that a lot. That you know, all the kind of grief of being like 13, 14, 15, and all that that entails. Acting for me was a way out of that, and it was a chance to kind of, you know, to figure out who I was and what I did and all that stuff, and so it was really helpful for me. But with him, I mean, his whole world ended at that time when you're most vulnerable, when you don't know who the hell you are, and all of a sudden everybody's telling you that what little bit of self-identity you did have is gone, and these people you thought were your family are no longer your family, and all the great things that we said to you are no longer true, and all the things that we taught you how to do so that you could make us happy, you no longer have to do. And so it was a little bit different. You know, I'm close enough to it, and of course I've worked with a lot of kids in similar situations, and so I was close enough to it to be able to, I think, be informed in the performance, but happily it was not my situation.
Well, there are many who can say that it's not a problem, that they've turned out great, and some not so great. But one thing I find sad that I've seen is I'm not real big on stage mothers and fathers. They kind of bug me a little bit when I've watched them behind. The kids seem to be great, but you know.
You got to be careful not to generalize, but that's really true. That to a certain extent, you know, people would say to me, you know, they'd quote W.C. Fields, and they'd say, you know, be careful working with kids. Oh, kids are great, and I love kids, and you know, you've talked to me before. I'm like a kid, you know, so I had no problem with that. You know, the parents sometimes can be tough, and you know, luckily, and I'm you know, I say this with all sincerity, on this movie it was great. I mean, Christina's family were terrific, and her whole family would come, you know, and spend time with her and help her make that transition because she had never done anything before. So they were terrific. And David Krumholtz, I mean, I don't know if you've spoken to him. He is show business. You know, I mean, he's Gumby. You know, he's the greatest. And this is a kid who's doing this because he loves to do it. He's not doing it for anybody else. He's not doing it to please his parents. He's not doing it to satisfy anybody else's needs or wants. So his mom is terrific. She just kind of sits back and there he goes. There goes my boy. And he's where the damage comes in is when parents live vicariously through their kids, and they're pushing their kids to do things they don't want to do. I've seen parents at auditions say, you know, wipe those tears away and smile, damn it. You know, I mean, it's just horrifying. I mean, it's horrifying.
Or parents that make a lot of money off their kids. That's their job.
Well, there's that too, you know, and that was kind of the backstory I had in my mind for this was that you know, this Michael Chapman becomes a big TV star when he's a kid, and his father, you know, kind of credits himself for it and thinks, well, if I could do it for him, I could do it for other kids, and he takes my money and opens an agency which I have to spend the rest of my life trying to keep alive. You know, and that's not an uncommon situation, you know, things like that. You know, this kind of parent managers, it can, again, I don't want to generalize, but yeah, a lot of damage is done to kids, you know, because yeah, I happen to think the most profane four-letter word you can use around a kid is work. You know, and I talked to James about that beforehand. James Lapine, the director, was absolutely the only guy for this job because he's worked with kids a lot. That is to say, he's done his work with kids, and he knows how to make them want to do something for themselves, and not because because they need his approval or they need somebody else's approval. And because I said to him right off, I said, I don't want kids feeling bad because they don't know their lines and stuff, you know. And he said that's not the way he works, and it turns out it wasn't. So we had a real good time.
Does Family Ties seem like World War II history, like it's so long ago to you?
In a way, and in another way, it's real immediate because at the time the show ended, I think everybody else was kind of like, well, what now? And I was in the middle of Back to the Future 2, and I was doing Back to the Future 3, and then my Tracy was pregnant with Sam, and it was all kind. I was just like, oh, is this done yet? I gotta go. So that now I had some time. After I did The Hard Way in Doc Hollywood, I took a lot of time off, and I had some time to kind of look back and miss it, which was good, And I talked to Meredith quite a bit, and Justine, and so it's nice. I've kind of had a chance to mourn it, put it in its proper perspective. But I don't spend a lot of time looking back. I don't spend a lot of time looking forward. I just kind of deal with what's on my plate today, and that's Mikey's deal in the movie, is that that scene. I really love that scene where he's just sitting there watching tapes of himself, and I wanted to play against it. I didn't want him to sit there and be all morose, but that's all he's got. He's just got looking back, saying, "Wait a minute,
It must be very hard for someone to peak at like 17 or 21, like a football player, for example.
Right.
They've done all that they're really ever going to do.
There are a lot of athletes that spend time looking at tapes of the big game.
That must be scary.
Yeah, it's you always got to have something in your life to keep you in today, and that for me, I've said this a million times, but the other thing that happened just as I finished Family Ties, and probably the most important thing, was that I got married, and I started a family, and that became the most important thing to me. And it doesn't make your work secondary. It actually makes you better at your work, I think, because you're not obsessing about it. Your work isn't your child and your wife and your parents. Your work is just your work, and so I think that really kind of helped me, and so now, no matter how important my work is, it'll always be,
So you're going to direct now? I understand you're going to take a movie on?
Yeah, there's a movie that Universal's going to let me do called 30 Wishes that I was going to do later this year, but this other great script showed up with that I really wanted to do. So I thought, well, I'm kind of in business to do this. I should do this now and do my movie next year. But it's called 30 Wishes, and it's about a guy who turns 30, and there's a kind of a fantasy hook to it, which is that he, through one way and another, is given 30 wishes, and they're the 30 wishes he's made every time he's blown out the candles on his birthday cake. And if you think about what you wished for when you were 17 and you blew out the candles on your cake, or when you were 19, and if all that stuff just showed up one day, life would get pretty complicated.
We've had some good teachers. I'm sure you'll do good.
Yeah, I hope
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
I'm on the radio every 2